Hey everybody, this is Pixelblips Podcast, a special Wednesday edition. Well, hopefully we get it up on. Anyway, I did want to name check. We are putting a playlist together of our favorite shows and the best shows, the ones you should go back, the ones that aren't just news, the ones we do like our top 10 lists,
Yes.
stuff like that.
Things like that.
But what we're doing today is we have a bone to pick, or I have a bone to pick. Dave doesn't.
And I'm going to sit here and try to defend him picking the bone.
Yeah, so we got,
not picking the bone.
We got side one, side two. The bone to pick is with the people online that are saying that the people that complained about Xbox One DRM and Xbox One Always On and all this stuff have ruined the Xbox One, and that it was going to be the great savior of
console gaming
and mankind as a whole. Cliff Bleszinski is quite possibly the most vocal of these people. Also, Gizmodo has been behind this push.
Yeah. There was a really. I like the Gizmodo article. I see the guy's point.
Yeah, I see his point too, and that's the other thing. I'm 100 saying I have a bone to pick with you, but you're not wrong.
Yeah, the ideas were great. The execution was poor.
Yes, the idea that the Xbox One was going to slash game prices by getting rid of the used market is a possibility.
Yes,
it could have happened that way. I don't think it would have.
No.
I think that these companies have done a lot to show us that if the option is making a buck or letting someone else save a buck, they will make a buck.
They will make the money, yeah.
The only thing that stands out in my mind as contrary to this is when Microsoft bit the bullet and paid for the Red Ring of Death. But that was after a
faulty hardware, you know.
That was faulty hardware after a very long and arduous and painful PR process.
Yes.
Where they finally caved and said, "Fine, we'll replace the console."
That's a good cave, though. I mean, that
it was a good cave.
That built loyalty to
Yes.
their brand loyalty, basically.
Yeah.
So, you know what, my thing broke, but they're going to give me a new one.
But they had to cave first.
A little bit, yeah.
A lot like this Xbox One DRM, they had to cave.
Yes.
The people that are saying that Xbox One would have defended mid-range publishers and developers, I also don't think that's true.
Probably not.
I think that those people would still be making those games, and until they fix the pricing structure of those games...
But they would have been making those games for PC and other indie-friendly titles, or consoles.
They would have been made for PC,
Platforms.
they would have made it for PS4, the used game market would have still been out there.
Yeah.
And those publishers, unless they come out with a different pricing scheme, some games, once we talk about it a lot on the show, some games just aren't worth $60.
Some games aren't worth $30 or $40, and some
Yeah.
of them are. Some of them
games
are the
worth-
$10 bin.
Yeah. Some games are worth a lot more than $60, and we get them as a discount.
Yes.
Some games are not worth $60.
No.
Those mid-range publishers, until they realize that not every game has to be $60, a $40 retail product, stuff like that. This is going to keep happening, and Xbox One wasn't going to stop it.
No. But like we said, the ideas that Xbox One had, right? The share your game with your buddies.
Yep.
Your digital games with your buddies, not the disc and all that, because that.
But you couldn't share. Remember, you could not lend. You could give.
Give.
So if I have
now,
Street Fighter 4 Arcade online, I can give it to you.
Yes, you could give it to me,
But I can't have that then.
But I could give it back to you.
No, you can only be given once. This is another problem with Microsoft's messaging. It left a lot of gray areas.
It's like, can I gift it infinitely? Like, can one guy buy it and we'll just pass it around?
Does it mean like I can only gift it once? That means I give it to Dave, and now he can gift it once because I gifted it once to Dave, and now Dave can gift it to me back. Like things like that weren't clear, that weren't in the Xbox messaging. Like that's one of the real problems of this DRM thing, and I think the people that fall on Xbox One's DRM online always was a good thing are the people that read those PR releases.
They read the PowerPoint presentation.
It's funny when people that read those releases with a very optimistic view of the market.
Yes. And
a very optimistic view of what Microsoft was doing. And keep in mind, like we've seen that like companies, once again, they can make a buck or you can save a buck. They won't make that buck.
They will make that.
They don't want you to save that buck. If they can make a buck and you save a buck, that's great for them and great for you, and they'll do it. But
and then that was another thing, like selling back your games, your digital games. Like if you paid $20 to buy Assassin's Creed 4, which you wouldn't pay that much for it, but
selling back games, once again, timeout is something I don't do. So you're not talking to me in that.
Yeah. So for some people,
I wish I could give my digital games. Like for instance, My brother and I were out shopping. He said he wanted to play Bulletstorm. I said, "Oh, you'll like Bulletstorm. It's a really fun game."
But you couldn't do it because you bought
it had it on digital.
Super sale for $10.
He wanted to know if he could borrow it. I said he can't. I bought it on digital.
Yeah. And that would be nice. And you know, not even Steam does that right now. At least not with all games.
There's rumors that Steam's working it out. There's rumors that Sony's trying to work it out. There's obviously clear evidence that Microsoft has tried to work it out.
Yeah. And that may come back. That may come back at some point. You know, maybe.
And it's a Switch, so Microsoft can turn something on, turn something off.
Yeah, and then there's always the chance that, you know, in 2 years or a year and a half from launch, they'll be like, "Hey guys, remember how we said you didn't have to do all this stuff? Well, now you do."
Yeah. I think they won't do that. That'd be horrible for the business.
That would be very bad for them. There'd be so many Xbox Ones going back on the market.
It would be bad.
It would be very bad.
So, like, the people that are like down on the people that didn't want DRM, that didn't want the Xbox One to be always online, that all this stuff. It's not. Don't be pissed at them. It's not their fault that you're losing all these great features.
Yeah.
This is the one thing that like I'm really shocked by people saying. It's like, you ruined the Xbox One. Microsoft was going to take care of us with this 10 family plan and all this other stuff. You got rid of it. No, they didn't get rid of anything. They just said they weren't happy with it. Microsoft got rid of it.
Well, yeah, and
Microsoft could have said, okay, you can have all these disc things you want, and we're still doing this plan over here, which is something I think they should have done.
They should have said, okay, if you want to check in, you want to do all this stuff. Now,
if you buy your games digitally,
they could still do it and make it part of, you know, an Xbox Live Premium thing.
Yeah.
You know,
like, wouldn't it be great if they had come out and said, if you buy your games digitally, if you want it to be always on, you want it to be checked in, you'll be part of this other ecosystem where you can share your games. You can still do all this stuff that you wanted to do. But instead, Microsoft said, no, you guys don't want to play with me. I'm taking my G.I. Joes and going home like a little spoiled brat.
Yeah, well, they did.
And if there's another view of that out there, if you can look at what Microsoft did and how Microsoft set all this stuff up and say, oh, Microsoft is the poor victim here, and they were going to give us the future and all this stuff.
And you know what? Microsoft was looking at the model that most PC gamers have had to deal with for the past few years. Right?
Which is my problem with Microsoft from the very beginning in the console space, is that they're still thinking of all this stuff like it's PC gaming.
But you know what? It makes sense for them to want to go this way because it does reduce the amount of money that is lost not only to, you know, publishers and developers, but them. I'm sure they get a cut of every game that is sold under the Xbox name.
Yep, they do.
They're getting a cut of every game that's sold digitally on the Xbox market, if they're not getting more. So, you know, at GameStop reselling Call of Duty for $20, nobody sees a dime of that except GameStop.
It's true.
So
that's once again, I hate GameStop.
You don't like going to GameStop.
I'm a drastic opponent of GameStop. The things that get me to go to GameStop are when GameStop says, like, you know, buy 2 get 2 free Wii games. Like, that's how much they need to pull me into GameStop.
Yeah, they have to give you free stuff in order to get you to go in there.
The last time I went to GameStop, it was buy 2 used Wii games, get 1 free, and I was like, there are a few Wii games I want before these things fly off the shelves forever.
And you know, there's stuff that they could do.
Anyway,
and now you derailed me.
There's stuff that they can do.
There's stuff that they
could have, like I said, they could have offered all this bright new future while integrating the disc stuff. Like, give people an option. Like, how hard would it have been, since you have to put out a day 1 patch to fix all this stuff anyway?
Yeah.
To just say, hey, if you don't apply this patch, this is how everything is going to work. You are going to have a special icon by your name.
Yeah.
And you can't play used games. You have to do this licensing thing. You can do all this stuff. It wouldn't have been that hard. In fact, to me, it seems like it would only almost be easier.
Or it would have just been an option that you would have changed in your initial setup, right?
Yeah.
Like, it's something that you could have always changed.
Xbox One or an online Xbox One? Like, so.
Yes, exactly.
So once again, don't get mad at the people that didn't want DRM on their Xbox One. Those people wanted to play Halo 5. I think we're calling it Halo 5.
That's a good enough title for now.
Yeah, and they wanted to buy a used copy of it if they wanted.
Yeah.
They wanted to play, you know.
They didn't want to. They wanted to wait and buy
a used copy.
They wanted to buy their games 6 months later. At $50 instead of $60.
Yeah, they wanted to do something that they've been able to do forever.
Yeah, since FuncoLand existed in the U.S.
Yeah, they wanted to do something that they were able to do since
they've been able to. Yeah,
since they've been able to turn on the game system.
Indeed.
Like, that's the funny thing, is everyone's like, oh, Sony's winning this console generation. It's like, but they're doing stuff that we're already able to do.
Yeah, it's not like they're changing their policies. Yeah. It's just they didn't have this. I don't want to say horribly restricted, but they did not have this system in place. It was restrictive. Like, you know, you could not.
You can say restrictive.
You couldn't just go, hey, here's Halo 5. You go play this and knock yourself out. You know.
1 second. Oh, I got a funny idea. There we go.
Here's
how you
play
share
Yoshi.
Here's how you share a game on your Famicom with Yoshi Cookie. You share the game.
Step 1.
See how easy that was?
Yeah.
Like, we've been able to do this forever. That's why the joke that Sony made was so funny.
Yeah, it was. And it was freaking
Oh, I just realized someone put their name on the back of this.
Well, good for them. And something else.
It's katakana. Oh.
Yeah, you'll be all right.
I can't, and off the top of my head, I can't read that, but...
Yeah. It you know, it hurt a good chunk of what makes these consoles so popular now.
Yeah, why the console space is thriving more than the PC space.
Yes, and it's not piracy.
No, it's not piracy. It's just a different ecosystem. It's a different way people consume their games and their media.
Yes.
That's why, Steam doesn't have Netflix integration, because why the hell would it?
Well, and it doesn't need it because you're on a PC. You can go to the Netflix website and do this and that.
Yeah. It's why all this weird integration stuff is happening. Is just because of how the masses that consume console gaming, it's how they do it.
Yeah, and it's sometimes they go out and buy a game at midnight when it's launched. Sometimes
they get Yoshi's Cookie from eBay.
Yeah, and sometimes they go to, if you can find a Blockbuster, or GameFly a game, and it's part of their $12 a month subscription, and they get their game, they play it for 3 weeks, they're done with it, they send it back.
Yep.
So it's
Microsoft wanted to change that.
That messed up with all kinds of different ways of people playing games, and that was part of the reason why people got so up in arms about this.
Yes.
Can I GameFly games? Can I borrow my buddy's copy?
And Microsoft didn't have answers.
Well, they had answers. They were just the answers that people didn't want.
They didn't have answers. You didn't want the answer.
It was the answer, suck it up and go buy a 360, or...
Oh, I hate that. God. Don Matrick should have been... If I was the PR guy, that
should have been fired.
I would have shoved the camera down,
like
interview's over.
You're not talking to him anymore. Go away. It was suck it up, buy a 360, or have reliable internet.
I think we can all agree that the GameStop way of doing these... selling stuff is not good for the consumer.
No.
It's not good for the industry. It's only good for GameStop.
We would like to see a GameStop, we would like to see GameStop go, okay, you know what, 5% of every used game goes directly to the publisher.
Does...
They're not going to do that.
Yeah. GameStop is a service. And the people that want to play Call of Duty...
Much like
10
PSN
days,
and Xbox
10 days
Live
later
services.
for $5 less, that it's there for them.
Yeah. Hell, they don't even have to... They could buy it new on release. They could buy it used on release day for $5 cheaper.
So people are defending GameStop, but GameStop has some very shady practices. I'm not defending them.
And
I think we need to
as much as I use GameStop to buy games, I'm not really defending it either.
We need to solve this problem. The people that think the Xbox One's restrictive DRM and always online policies was the way we were going to fix this are dumb and mistaken, because there's a better way and we need to find it.
Again, we say the ideas were good, the execution was poor.
Yeah.
And you know what? And easing people into it would have been a better way to do it. Like saying, you know what? You got to check in every week.
I mean, look at I talk about I love Sony. I talk about Sony all the time. Look how much freaking brand new Vita games are day one on the PlayStation Store. It's damn near the same. If it's not a Sony game, it is damn near the same price.
It's $40 to buy them new in retail, right?
Yeah, to buy them new in retail. And
so it's usually $35 to $40 on the Vita.
Yeah. So sometimes we get a discount, sometimes we don't.
Look at day one,
Sony, day one digital.
Mm-hmm.
You don't get a discount.
No, Last of Us is still $60,
and you get to pre-order it, which to me, pre-ordering a digital copy of something is
kind of silly.
Some weird esoteric.
If they would allow you to download it during the week before and then just unlock it on that day, that would be good. That's what Steam does. It allows you to preload the game.
That's preloading, not pre-ordering. The fact that there's pre-order bonuses.
You pay for the game before you download it, and then you download it the week before it comes out.
The fact that there's pre-order bonuses for online digital shit blows my freaking mind.
But that way they have
like a Salvador Dali painting.
They're assured sales. They're sales that they have, and they're already making money on a game that hasn't even been released yet.
I mean, and for the people that said that, the Gizmodo article and Cliff Bleszinski that said, this was going to get rid of the used game market, games were going to be cheaper, blah, 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 blah.
And you know what? Had they gotten rid of the market, had Sony come out and said, hey, we're doing something very similar to this, people would have manned up and said, all right, well, I've got to buy my PS4, I've got to buy my 360, I have to check in X number of times a week. And it would have, in the long run, I think it would have driven some games prices down.
So
your AAA title guys, your Activision guys are still going to go, no, we want $60 a game, no matter what.
I think the digital space is already doing that. Without
it is not. Yeah, the digital space is definitely doing.
A good example. I just bought Dungeons & Dragons: Chronicles of Mystara.
It was $15.
It
was 2 games, right? You get the Tower of Doom and.
Back in the olden days of the PS1, that would have been a full retail product.
Yeah, they would have had to put it out on a disc, and it would probably have been $30 to $40 easy. Probably $50.
Probably $50. Probably at the top.
Yeah.
So, a good example, and I'm going to zig where you think I'm going to zag. A good example of how publishers and platform holders don't give you good prices on stuff is the freaking PSP Go.
Yeah. Well,
like that is like that was an ecosystem.
100,000 people that bought a PSP Go or whatever it was.
I still want to find one on eBay just to have one around my office, but the ecosystem for that was totally closed. It was all digital, and the prices were still the same.
Yes, it was, and that totally sucked. But it was the same PSN.
And this is Sony, so I'm not gonna.
Yeah, and it was the same PSN that you could access with your PSP 2000 or your PSP 3000. So
so there was
an all digital platform in a space where retail still exists isn't going to drive prices down.
But you're never gonna have that. You don't even have that on PC right now.
No, you don't. You can still buy. And it's really dumb because you basically buy a box with a disc in it, and then it has a key in it.
Yeah.
And you don't even have to use the disc. The key is just there. You still have to authenticate. Like I bought SimCity. I had to install Origin, which I hated doing. I did it anyway. And you're basically just paying for the key, which buying it on Origin would have cost you the same amount, but you don't get the box and the disc.
I'm glad you mentioned Origin. Because Origin is a closed system. EA games
and
are on
none of their
Origin.
games going down in price. But that's because you can buy them on other platforms for, they basically have to recoup the cost that they...
But this was going to be the same as the Xbox One. That's my point. Is the
yes,
Xbox One was still going to have retail games. It wasn't going to be cheaper.
And part of the reason I think that digital prices haven't dropped is because they use digital to recoup the cost of people buying games used. It's dumb sounding. I know it sounds really dumb.
No,
but
I can see that from a business standpoint.
They're getting $60 for Mass Effect 3.
Yeah.
And they get $60. It never drops in price. It's always going to be $60 unless they decide, we're going to do a flash sale of 45.
Yeah.
Which, $30. You could go to GameStop and buy Mass Effect 3 for $25, and they don't see a dime of that.
Yeah.
So to recoup some of that sales, they charge the same prices on the stores for an exceedingly long time. Yes, I think after 6 months, a game has been out, it should get a $5 or $10 price cut on the digital, possibly more.
I would say after 5 months on the market, a $60 retail game should be $20, unless it's a huge seller.
I would
like to see how expensive Mario games are.
Well, the Mario is. I don't want to say.
Or even Uncharted.
Case.
Uncharted.
Those Uncharted games are still expensive when you go to GameStop compared to any
other
third-person
shooter.
That's
why Sony started bundling a lot of stuff together because they wanted people to buy them, prices to come down.
Yeah.
I don't disagree with you. You're not wrong.
Yes.
But
yeah.
Look at Xbox right now. Games on demand.
Yeah, their games are just as expensive as retail.
No. More expensive than retail. They have games on there right now that are $60.
Yeah,
at retail, brand new, are not $60.
Hypothetically, I don't know what the price is. I haven't looked on my Xbox, but I know you can buy XCOM on XCOM Enemy Unknown on your PS or on your Xbox 360 right now.
Yep.
And yeah, it is still $50 or $60.
Yep.
On their download service, and that game has been out for however long. You could buy Fable. Fable 2, I think, is still on there, and I think it's still like $35-$40. I think Fable 3 is free right now, and then they're going to make like Assassin's Creed. But Assassin's Creed is still $50 on there.
So when people say Microsoft was going to charge less,
they could. They have the option of doing so, but they are not doing it.
Yeah, they could. They 100% could. You're not wrong. It could have happened. The problem is we have proof that they wouldn't.
We've seen that they do not drop the price, and
we have seen up until
Sony
this
is also
point,
guilty of this as well, right?
Yeah.
Games on the PSN are as expensive now as they were when they first came out.
Well,
and they do.
I think Sony's done a really good job because I pay attention to the blog posts where they're like, "Hey, there's a blog post. It's the Tuesday update. Blah 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 blah."
And these games are on sale.
And then at the bottom, they're like, "Here's sales," and in their sale marking, they have, "This is a sale. This is a price decline. It's not a lot. They're still more expensive than retail. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
Which digital product really shouldn't ever be
it should
the same price.
It should be at minimum. It should be $5 less. Like if you're not getting the box, like buying Last of Us on the PSN shouldn't cost you $60.
Yes,
it should cost you $55.
I am saying if I have to download this, and if this eventually my system is going to brick, because it is electronic, and eventually they all die,
and you know.
And I will not be able to
fail or something.
And if I will not be able to recoup this somehow, then it needs to be cheaper than $60.
Yes.
Now the good thing about the Sony PlayStation Network is that when they redid a bunch of their internal network stuff, with how your profiles worked, they actually said like, hey, you can now re-download all the shit that's in your list.
Yes.
As long as it is on a trusted machine that you say is your machine.
Yes.
So I that's why I buy more digital stuff on Sony than I did before. But I used to right.
Oh, and just
right when I got my right when the PSP Go came out, I was like 100% against digital. I was like, unless you can give digital is great for like cheap games.
Yeah.
But I am not buying retail digital games.
I want my little UMD because I can always play it.
Because I have a stack of them behind me.
Yeah.
A
couple stacks of them actually.
Yeah. But like we're getting to a different spot. I still think that like Microsoft's just not going to do that. They're not going to cut price on these games.
They will never.
And it's still up to the publisher what you charge for that game.
Yeah. And you know, we've seen with Microsoft and with Sony that...
And with EA and with Activision.
Well, I'm saying specifically on the PSN and the Xbox Live Store, the Xbox, whatever the hell it's called, that the prices do not drop permanently most of the time. And when they do drop permanently, they don't drop much.
Yeah.
So you will wind up at some point buying a new copy of Assassin's Creed 2 for $40 on the Xbox store, or you can go to Walmart or
get it for $10
Target and buy it for $10 or $20.
Yes. So my real bone to pick in wrapping this up, I do want to say once again, if you're angry that the Xbox One doesn't have all these great features that you thought they were going to have, my response is they probably weren't going to be as good as you thought they were because it never freaking is.
It's always pie in the sky, and it's usually pie on the dirt.
Yeah, I was watching this thing today, that PS4, how the user interface works and how it's so quick and snappy. I was like, man, if it could work that way. And then like immediately my inner voice was like, you know it's not.
It's not going to work like that.
Are you drunk, stupid, and high? There's no way.
Yes.
But so it probably wasn't going to work as good as you thought it was. No. And it's not the people that complain's fault that it's gone. Microsoft could still offer all that stuff to you. They're choosing not to because they kind of want to be dicks.
Well, and they want console sales. And they saw this as we're not going to be able to sell systems.
Sony has already curb stomped us in sales, and these things aren't even out yet.
Pre-orders have already capped out twice for Sony, and we might have hit our first cap if we're lucky.
Yeah, and our cap was lower.
And you know what? They have stockholders they need to answer to and things like that. Like they have a lot of people they need to make happy, and nobody was happy with a lot of this stuff when it was first announced.
I have to say, Cliff Bleszinski, I really respect you, man. I love pretty much every game you've ever been a part of.
He's never played Gears of War.
I haven't played I've played Gears of War in passing, but I've not beat it. I'm really looking to Fortnite. I think you do a lot of like excellent things.
He doesn't work for Epic anymore.
Oh, he doesn't work for Epic? I thought Fortnite was his idea.
It might be, but he doesn't work for Epic anymore.
Anyway, I'm really excited to see what you do next outside of Epic. Like you were right up there with David Jaffe and like someone that I really respect because you're outspoken and you care about the industry, you care about gaming. And I really get the feeling, you know, I just watched a freaking Legend of Zelda special that G4 produced in like 2003 that you were on. I get the feeling that you really like gaming and you're really smart. I think you're wrong. And I
don't think you're entirely wrong, but
I think you're giving the benefit of the doubt to Microsoft where they don't deserve that benefit.
Yeah. Well.
And I think the people that are like you, like I said, you're not wrong. I just think you were mistaken. It could have been great, and I really hope it would have been. I just don't think it was gonna be.
You know, you can have these ideas and you can think this is going to be awesome and amazing, and it turns out that what you thought was going to happen didn't, and what you thought wanted, you know, the stuff that you wanted to happen.
We've all felt that way. We saw a great trailer for a movie. The movie wasn't great.
Yeah, let's go with that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the best kind of thing.
Don't forget to spay and neuter Pokemon, especially you, Cliffy B. I know you're a fan of Clefable. See you next week.